Hey everyone, today's lesson is going to be over relationships among organisms. And so our learning objective is we're going to interpret relationships including predation, parasitism, commensalism, mutualism, and competition among organisms. So there's a lot of different types of relationships that we can look at. We know that organisms do not live independent of each other, right? Even we as humans, we might have a dog or we might deal with that pest or insect that comes into our place. We do not live in isolation. We need other organisms in order to be able to survive. And so all organisms are connected in some sort of manner. So there are four main relationships between organisms that we're going to look at and that you'll need to know. So first, we're just going to talk about the first three are actually called symbiotic relationships. So this is just the close relationship that exists when two or more species live together. So the first one that we'll look at is parasitism, commensalism, and then mutualism. And I'll go through each one of these further on another slide. But these are our three that are symbiotic when these two or more species live together. Then we also have community interactions. So if you remember, a community is dealing with multiple species living within a certain ecoregion. So in this case, we're going to look at predation and how that works. So first, we're going to start with parasitism. So most of you have probably heard what a parasite is. That's really what we're talking about here. This is when one organism benefits at the expense of another organism. So for example, something like a tick or a flea or a tapeworm, okay? When ticks burrow into you or into a human, okay, the tick is getting the blood that it wants. It is benefiting, but that means we are losing blood. So that means it is at our expense that they are being able to survive. So that means it is good for the one organism and bad for the other. The next type of relationship that we're going to look at is called commensalism. So this is when one organism benefits while the other one is neither harmed nor helped. So it really has a neutral effect upon the other organism. So for example, in this one, we have like a clownfish and sea anemone. So clownfish use sea anemones as their shelter. Now, this does not harm the sea anemone, but it doesn't also help it as well. So even though the clownfish is benefiting, the sea anemone is not experiencing any beneficial or harmful benefit from this specific relationship. So the next one we'll look at is called mutualism. So if you look at that word mutualism, you can see that there's the word mutual that starts it. So that means that there is a benefit to both parties within this relationship. So for example, we're going to look at lichens. So lichens is actually made of algae and fungi. Those are two different organisms, but they live together. The algae provides food for the fungi, and the fungi provides a habitat for the algae. So both of them are receiving some sort of benefit from the other one, and it's not harming them, but it's actually helping both of them to be able to survive even more. And then finally, we'll look at that community interaction. So we know within communities that environmental resources are limited. So things like water and food. And sometimes species in a location are going to have to fight for their survival. If there's only so much food, then that means that certain organisms and species have to fight in order to be able to get the food and nutrients and resources that they need. So predation is just the act of one organism pursuing and consuming another. So this is the kind of thing that you would normally see on like National Geographic. Something where there is one organism pursuing and hunting down another one. So something like bears and fish or lions and zebras. So in this case, we know that there is no benefit for the fish or the zebras in this case. The bears and lions are doing what they need to do in order to survive, which means that they are going to completely kill off this other animal in order to be able to get that resource that they possibly need. So that's all that I have for you for this lesson, and go explore further.